Good afternoon. My name is Jim Conlan, and welcome to the latest edition of our entertainment show. This week, we look at upcoming TV series debuting here in Ireland, and we look at upcoming movies, but we're particularly focused on this new TV series for this week that's debuting on Channel Sky Atlantic here in Ireland and also in the UK. The Nevers. It's about a group of women who gain mysterious powers. They're called the Touched. And some of them go on a crusade of good, other of them go on a sort of crusade of evil, as sort of such. And it's set in Victorian England times and Victorian English times back in the early Victorian era. One of the main characters of the show is a character called Maladie, and she's played by our guest tonight, the one and only Scottish actress, currently in London as we speak, Amy Manson. Amy, The Nevers, I saw the trailer for it. I know it's debuting. It hasn't come out just yet in terms of Sky. It's here in Ireland, the Sky Atlantic, 6 episodes. Dare I say it's a bit of a sci-fi sort of supernatural sort of thriller. It gives the concept of the whole idea of maybe witches and women deemed, if they have any sort of extra gifts, that they must all be sort of alienated from society.
Exactly, Jim. That was a great introduction you gave there. You're right. We still don't know as a cast or as viewers, we won't know in the first 6 episodes why this group of women specifically, who are the majority of low stature, have been given these, it's almost like mild superpowers. So through the first couple of episodes of the show, you watch and are part of these women getting used to these new abilities, which, yes, society has kind of ostracized from itself because of fear of not understanding, why these women can have these turns and do what they can, really.
And I suppose, Amy, in terms of your character, Maladie, she's renowned as one of the sort of evil sort of characters, dare I say, a dangerous serial killer she comes across that's on the loose in terms of her crime. She's one of the sort of Touched as well, but the other sort of Touched members try and seek her out as well to try and bring her to justice maybe for her sort of crimes. And how was Maladie always an evil type of person even before she was touched?
No, I don't think she was. I mean, look, I think society makes people mad or turns them evil. I don't think anybody's born that way. You're a subject of your youth and what you've learned in your life. And I hope the audience realizes that Maladie's gone through so much. But basically, you see her as Sarah, and this is before she enters an asylum. And when she comes out of the asylum, she's been turned into this creature, this kind of God-loving, kind of Jack the Ripper, who comes out with a vendetta against the evil doctors who basically abused her in the asylum. And they abused her mind and her head to figure out why she was, why she's one of the chosen one, why she's one of the touched, basically. And I think she's got blinkers on. So when she's on her revenge path, if anybody else gets in the way, then she'll take those people down too. So I think there's a reason.
And we start off, Amy, your character, she's under investigation. The detective is trying to find her and sort of locate her. And we go through the whole sort of Victorian sort of era, that sort of time sort of period. We're sort of brought back, as you mentioned, that Jack the Ripper sort of era of killings in sort of London. Do you feel that maybe that's a sort of a popular sort of theme that is very relevant to English sort of society and sort of that great Victorian era? It's something that the audience and viewers seem to revel in terms of what went on, in terms of the robbery, the prostitution, the crimes, the victims, the things going on in the background in terms of the Jekyll and Hyde type scenarios that we saw in that sort of era.
Oh, I love that thought. I know, I don't know why we're so, it's as a culture and society, we always kind of go back to that time
Sherlock
in
Holmes
history.
type.
And the Sherlock Holmes,
yeah.
But I think maybe the end of the Industrial Revolution, it was when, you know, as you said in your introduction, you know, people were still termed witches, or, you know, were into kind of witchery and things, which was just, I think, an anomaly at the time, you know, and that came up against the Industrial Revolution, and it was a time of change and people were scared of that. And I think, you know, the divide, as much as it is now, between rich and poor was huge then too. And I think that's what The Never shines so brightly on, is that class divide. And it's about the underdog and the underdog prevailing, really, especially Maladie. She's like the anti-hero of the whole piece.
And Amy, we see that the whole orphan sort of team, and we see it in relation to the character Laura Donnelly plays Mila True, and an Irish actress, and Skelly plays the role of Princess Adair as well. And then we you're the sort of three sort of main sort of touch characters that we see, and we see maybe Penance and Amela sort of fight the good cause, and in terms of that, in terms of saying maybe that all the touched are not to be feared or not to be frightened of.
Yes, exactly. You'll find out within the first few episodes why Maladie and Amalia come to lockerheads, because they've got a huge backstory within the asylum that you only, you know, we only kind of go in depth into come episode 6. So it'll be a wait for the British audience. But there's those two, you find out that, and then also just to see Amalia with Penance, I think that's something that, you know, they complement each other. You know, I think it's one of those, it's, you know, you've got you're like, not Beavis and Butthead, but you know, Laurel and Hardy or something like that. They really are, they're a good giggle, the pair of them, as well as being severely talented actresses. And we're two different they're one faction of the Touched, and then I'm the head of the underground faction, intent on her revenge, basically.
And I've only seen the sort of trailer myself, and I'm just wondering, in terms of the Victorian sort of era, there's a sort of a team or sort of a language in terms of the voice that was sort of used back times. And Skelly, being an Irish actress, does she sort of come across well, or does that Irish tone sort of in her voice sort of stand out in terms of the Victorian era?
Yeah, she's brilliant. I could listen to her chat about everything and nothing all day. Yeah, she's such a light in this cast. She really is, and she is hilarious. And that's what the show's got. It's got so much humor, and the scripts are the best I've ever read in my life. Maladie's language is sometimes kind of incoherent for me, but each character is so different, and everybody's, you know, got their own drive and objective within the show. And I think you watch it thinking you're in a Victorian world, but, you know, come episode 2, you're elsewhere. And I think that's the joy of the show, is that you get the rug pulled from under you quite often. You think it's going in one direction, and it takes a huge swerve and a curveball, and you're somewhere else completely.
And Amy, 6 episodes in the first season, and dare I ask, were you in the middle of shooting and coming onto the 6th episode when COVID sort of hit and everything sort of went into lockdown? And was that a reason why that you decided we'll make it a sort of a mini series in terms of season 1, when we shoot out the 6 episodes, see what the reaction is, and then maybe go for there? Or was COVID a factor at all?
You're right, Jim. COVID was a factor. So we chose to, I mean, HBO envisioned the second wave, which meant that we managed to finish filming last November, in the understanding that we were going to pick up sometime this summer to finish off the last 6, because there's 12 episodes in season 1, and we've only filmed the first 6. But episode 6 is a terrific break point to go into, you know, the rest of the season.
And in terms of shooting, I see London was mainly around the streets of London in terms of specific sort of stages, and then maybe off-shot locations around certain areas in terms of London. Was it mostly set there in terms of your shooting? And in terms of the production week, were you looking at maybe 5 to 6 days to shoot one episode?
Yeah, no, that's good questions. No, we had the luxury of we had 6 weeks to shoot the first episode. That was the
Okay.
pilot one. I've never had that length of time on any show before. And the
Wow.
majority, yeah, it was a real luxury. But the majority was about, 14 days to kind of 3 weeks, depending on which episode. And of course, there's a big spectacle in episode 5, which we kept delaying. And then, of course, COVID hit. And that would have involved about 1,000 extras. And that had to be whittled down to, I think it was about 40 stunt guys by the end. And we just had to be clever how we shot it. It was a lot of close-ups, but I mean, I've seen it 5 and it looks brilliant. I think it's my favorite to date. But yeah, we filmed in Lincoln Fields in London, but we've got studios in Ealing and then also up in Langleybury, up in, near Watford, near the Warner Brothers studios. So, but a lot of those sets were built by Gemma Jackson, the set designer. Yeah, he's brilliant.
And Amy, you mentioned there about 6 episodes in terms of the first block. And I suppose as an actress, when you sort of signed on and you were given the script, do you sort of know the plot and the themes for the next 6 that follow the sort of first 6? Or are you very much in the dark and waiting till you come back and shoot the next block of 6 to see what the director and the producer have in store? Or is it very much you sort of have to keep your mouth zipped and sort of buttoned up in terms of what happens after episode 6?
Oh, Jim, I wish I could. I want to know too. None of us have got any scripts for 7 going forward. So it seems to be kind of like we're just going with the audience too. I would love to know what happens, but I really don't. But everything will be tied up in episode 6. There'll be a lot of questions for viewers within the first couple of episodes, but everything gets wrapped up to the upteenth degree. It's brilliant.
I suppose, Amy, in terms of being involved in such a project, and you're waiting for the go back to come back and finish those sort of 6 episodes. As an actress, in that sort of period when everything started to shut down, and I suppose at the moment now when sort of things are getting back to work, can you take on sort of major jobs or major roles, given that you know that you're going to be coming back to shoot those sort of 6 episodes, or is it just very much open to guest appearances or guest roles and sort of TV shows at the moment in line with the second block of the Nevers that are coming out as well? Is it sort of are you tied up in terms of being involved in that?
Well, funnily you said that. Yeah, I've just signed on to play a lead in a new comedy in the UK. Okay. That's probably as much as I can say, but that's going to shoot before we start back on the next block of the Nevers. Okay. So there's some other of the cast that are working currently at the moment as well.
Okay, so in terms of that, there's a sort of flexibility, obviously, to take on other roles as well, given the sort of project. Because normally with those sort of series, I think a series that run for 3 or 4 seasons, it's normally a commitment when that sort of filming or shooting that actors are so busy that they're tied into the project. To take on extra sort of work is sometimes difficult in that sort of terms. But given the gap, obviously, with COVID, obviously, it means that other opportunities can come to your doorstep as well, I imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it was only merely because of COVID that this happened. We should have had initially it was 10 episodes, but because of COVID, the powers that be decided that we needed an extra 2 episodes if we were going to make episode 6 the cutoff point. So that just means that we'll just have to source other work, especially if we've not been on set for 6+ months, which is nice to kind of shake things up. And I love theatre, and I was supposed to be attached to do this one-woman show now, in fact, and unfortunately that fell through. But yeah, they're being very generous on our off time, and I think we need that because it can be especially for me, such an intense daily practice of trying to get into this mad woman's mind, in a state of hypermania, and it's quite hard just to take myself out of that every night. So it's nice to kind of do a bit of comedy or theatre or something.
And you mentioned that in terms of playing this sort of serial killer role, and I know reading sort of from reviews and in terms of, I'll just give you an example of Joaquin Phoenix, and when he played this sort of Joker sort of role, it took so much energy and resources out of him that he was actually having trouble sleeping in terms of he was remembering some of the scenes and remembering the lines, and he was waking up at the middle of the night, remembering parts of that sort of thing. So when it was brought to him in terms of doing it again, he was like, it was such an intense experience that he wouldn't be able to relive it again. And when you're trying to play that sort of serial, sort of killer role sort of thing, is it sort of healthy for the mind and the conscience? Can you sort of switch off for it when you sort of come off set? Some people can, I suppose, and some people are so aligned in their body of work trying to get that sort of imitation correctly and in terms of portrayal that it's just constantly in their head 24/7.
Probably 24/7, which is definitely not healthy, but I think I know how to manage it now. You know, I know that I know exercise is a big part of my life, meditation. And I think I've just learned to kind of like, I don't know, I almost felt the same because we filmed episode 1 and then we had a 3-month break. Not because of COVID, we were actually waiting to get more scripts in. And in that time, I thought, how am I going to get back into that headspace? I mean, it's somebody who's got hypermania, who's an insomniac, who, you know, has got these vendettas and people view her as a mad woman, but she's not. She's just on this pilgrimage and she's intent on revenge and she'll do everything to get it, I think. But as far as myself taking it home, I don't think I did. I mean, yes, the lack of sleep and eating and things, but it's these characters, it's about, you know, you've got to find the truth. She's a human being, and she must have gone through some huge trauma for her to, you know, feel that she can just go out and cause war. You know, she's a bundle of rage, but she doesn't want to be classed as a victim, even though she is. And, you know, she just doesn't have a handle on reality now, I guess. And it's just, people call her a lunatic, but she's anything but. I think she's a step ahead of everyone in the show, which you'll find out come episode 5.
And on that joyous sort of note, at 5, we'll turn it over to the character herself, Maladie, for the final 30 seconds. And she might enlighten all Irish listeners and all our audience why they should tune in en masse to watch the first 6 episodes of The Nevers on channel Sky Atlantic here in Ireland. And obviously it's debuting for people in Ireland and the UK can get Sky Atlantic. They can get it in Scotland and Wales as well. So we won't leave those neighbours out. We'll start to throw in the whole sort of parties. So Maladie, over to you for the final 30 seconds.
Well, I think the touch, these women are the future. It's about female empowerment and about unity and loving each other and not feeling, you know, that even if you feel ostracized from society, that you are. It's an amalgamation of so many different genres. I think it's going to keep audiences on their toes. There's about 1,000 storylines going on at once, and I hope everybody keeps up and enjoys this hyper intelligent show.
On that note, Amy Manson, a pleasure talking to you this evening. As we preview the upcoming blockbuster TV series, The Nevers, which is debuting here on channel Sky Atlantic in Ireland. Amy plays the character Maladie. You'll see her from the opening episode, so do tune in, watch the first 6 episodes. You will be left with sort of more questions and more answers in terms of wanting to watch the next 6 episodes. And no doubt Amy's going to play a big role in those next 6 episodes as well. But for the moment, Amy Manson, a pleasure talking to you. We wish you all the best, and hopefully, please God, the weather sort of picks up where you are and where we are, and we can enjoy hopefully a bright, nice sort of summer, dare I say it. Amy Manson, take care.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Cheers. Thank you.